In this lesson, we're going to be working on proportions. A proportion is formed by two equal ratios. Proportions have the same rate. Proportions must also be written in the same way. In other words, the same comparison. So, write two ratios equivalent to each given ratio. So, what we do to come up with our equal ratios is we multiply the top and the bottom by the same number or divide the top and the bottom by the same number. So if I'm multiplying by 2, I would have an equivalent ratio of 2 to 16. I could also multiply by 3. 3 over 24. And there are infinite answers. 1/2, I could multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Or I could multiply by 3. Or I could multiply by any number of our choosing, as long as you multiply the top and the bottom by the same number. In the next example, 4 over 6, I could multiply the top and the bottom by 2 to get 8 over 12. Or I could also divide the top and the bottom by 2 to get an equivalent ratio. In the next example, I could multiply by 2. I could also multiply by 3, or I could multiply by any number of my choosing as long as you have multiplied the top and the bottom by the same number. So when we are identifying whether these ratios are equivalent to make a proportion, we set them equal to one another and see if that's true. To be true, I multiplied the top and the bottom by 5. And since that is true, I did multiply the top and the bottom by 5. We would say yes, it is a proportion. In the next example, we can determine if these are equal to one another. What would I do to 4 to get 16? I would multiply by 4, but the bottom was multiplied by 3. 6 times 3 is 18, not 6 times 4. So this would not be a proportion. They are not equal ratios. So solving proportions, we can use what we call the horizontal strategy, meaning I'm going across. So what did I multiply by 2 to get 18? I multiplied by 9. So when I multiply the top by 9, I would get 9 over 18. Or I can divide. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Or I can go backwards the other way since I'm going to find g, and I'm going to multiply 5 times 15. And so I multiply 3 times 3, and I get 9. I'm going to multiply 2 times 4 to get 8, so I'm going to multiply 3 times 4 to get 12. And those would be equal ratios, which then create a proportion, which is two equal ratios. Now we're going to take a look at the vertical strategy. Vertical means up and down. So I want to know, what did I do to the 10 to get 2 since I'm going up? I divided by 5. So since I'm going up, what do I do to the 15? I divide by 5, and I get an answer of 3. Now I'm going down, 8 down to the m. So I decide, what do I do to the 3 to get 6, excuse me. I multiply by 2. So 8 times 2 would be 16. What did I do to the 16 to get 4? I divided by 4. So what do I do to the 12? I will also divide by 4, and I get an answer of 3. Let's take a look at a couple of word problems. There are only green and blue marbles. So when we are comparing and making our ratio in a bag of 70 marbles, the ratio of green to blue is 3 to 4. So we're going green to blue, 3 to 4. It says how many green marbles are in the bag if there's a total of 70 marbles. So there's actually going to be a total of 7 marbles. So 7 to 70 means that I'm multiplying by 10. 7 times 70 is 10, multiplying by 10. So if I were to multiply both of these by 10, the green marbles and the blue marbles. Okay? We can make a table to help us with this and solving our proportions. And that also could be quite helpful. So if there's boys and girls in the classroom, boys is 2 to 3 girls, and I know that there's 10 boys, I know that I would multiply the top by 5, and I would multiply the bottom by 5. So there would be 15 girls in the classroom. So we can either set it up as a straight 2 ratios equal to one another, or we can set it up using a table, which is a proportion. The ratio of cups of sugar to cups of flour is 1 to 4. So we have 1 to 4. And remember, we have sugar on the top and we have flour on the bottom. We have to set up the ratios exactly the same in order to figure this out. So we want to know how much sugar would there be, and since we don't know, we'll call it X, and if there's 20 cups of flour. So we could go our horizontal method and know that I would multiply by 5, so I have to multiply the top by 5. So there would be 5 cups of sugar.